and welcome to the Miracles and Grace podcast. I am your host, Grace Marina Cackett, and today I'm here with a really special friend of mine, Laney.
Hey.
I always want to say Laney Redmon, because that's when I met you, you were Laney Redmon, but now Laney Pickens.
Country.
Yeah. I was thinking last night about how we became friends, and I feel like you've probably heard this story at some point, but we met years ago. Like, were you even dating Clayton when we met?
I don't think so. I was trying to remember too how we
It was
did
during
meet.
the summer. So we met because my friend Lauren hung out with Sadie.
That's right.
And she was talking to Sadie, and it was so funny. Long story short, she just came back to me and was like, you and Sadie need to connect. Y'all would be great friends. And at the time, I had met Sarah and Gracie because Laney, Sadie, Sarah, and Gracie were all roommates in Nashville. And she said, you've got to meet Sadie. Y'all would be great friends. And she said it was so funny. The way that she talked about her roommates is exactly how I talk about you and your mom, which is funny because me and my mom have a mutual best friend. But she was like, and when she said that, she started talking about her roommates. And I was like, I think I know. I'd met Sarah at Imago Day, which is her boutique in downtown Franklin, and so she was just like, we need to make that happen. So Sadie and I had been trying to get together, and then I ran into Sarah, and they invited me to Gracie's birthday party at y'all's house.
Wait,
and so I came to her birthday party,
crazy.
and that's when I met you.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I had met Sarah and Gracie, and then I had that connection through Lauren to Sadie, and it was like we both knew that Lauren was trying to get us together to hang out. Yeah. But that was when we met, and that's when I met you, too.
What I remember, too, was Sadie going to lunch with Lauren and coming back, and she's like, yeah, she said there's this girl named Grace that I got to meet. And I was like, cool.
That's so sweet and so funny looking back. Yeah. Because I feel like after that, Lauren, I think she had kids at the time. I didn't. Like, I ended up spending so much more time with y'all than she ever did. Yeah. But I know she adores Sadie, obviously, and treasures that friendship. And
I also feel like you were, like, the quickest person we added to our friend group ever. Like,
yeah, I was, like, on a beach trip with you guys shortly after that.
We're like, wait, where's Grace?
I know. Yeah, that's such a special group of girls that we would all hang with. And now I feel like people, well, at least you've moved back.
Yep.
To Nashville because you were in Texas
back.
For a bit.
Feels good to be back.
Yeah. Anyways, so now that I've talked a lot, why don't you introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about you and what you do in life? And
well, I am married, happily married to Clayton. We have 2 girls, both 4. Well, one's 4 and one is 1. We also have a little boy in heaven, which we will talk about. I grew up in Texas. I have an incredible family. Grew up homeschooled all the way up, which I feel like is becoming more common, but was very rare at the time. When I was 18, I kind of just honestly didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but just had like a burden in my heart for something more. A lot of my friends were going to college and kind of doing honestly what they felt led to do, and I remember I was like, God, I don't know what I feel led to do, but I feel like it's something else.
Yeah.
And just had like a very real moment on my bedroom floor after a conversation with my parents about what I was going to do with my life. And I remember just going up to my room, laying on the floor, and just saying, God, like, would you just give me one word, like what to do, the next step to take. And I just so clearly and peacefully heard the word serve. And so first thing that came to my mind was I started working at Chick-fil-A and serving chicken. That was a great season of my life.
Service.
Yes. But like truly was such a, without going into too much detail, it was such a life, like heart-changing season for me. God met me on my drives to work at Chick-fil-A at 5:00 in the morning in those ugly black pants and kitchen shoes that I just thought I would never find myself in. Honestly, it got rid of a lot of pride that I didn't realize I had. I would have friends, sidetracking a little bit, I would have friends come to Chick-fil-A and I would go hide in the back and act like I was getting a drink of water, which is so terrible. But but it was real. Like
Yeah.
there was pride, honestly.
Yeah.
But I was working there, had a dream in my heart for something more. And the boss at Chick-fil-A, the owner actually was like, "What's in your heart?" And at the time I had gone to a Christian concert, seen Britt Nicole in concert, and just like what she was doing with her ministry, I was drawn to. And I remember saying in the audience, like, God, I would love to do something like that. Fast forward, I ended up getting asked to come be a backup dancer for her. In the waiting time, I learned the choreography from YouTube. There's a lot of ins and outs of that, and I won't, again, go into too much detail, but God met me in that season, and that's why I ended up moving to Nashville. Moved to Nashville, danced for 4 years, ended up touring with Mandisa as well. Was such a gift. And after that, started doing music a little bit, started a clothing company. That's how I met Sarah. And it was just kind of like all these little, not even little, but like things that God had put in my heart, creative things He had put in my heart. I was starting to finally just kind of take steps towards.
Yeah.
And let's see, I stopped dancing, and then, which is a whole backstory to that, but then 2 years later, I met my husband at a Luke Bryan concert. Never would have thought.
Yeah.
He likes to tell people we met at a bar, and which
Of
I
all
think is
people?
yes, which is so funny. I don't even like truly when I tell that, I'm like, I still again that
That's
I'm
when
like,
me and Davey reconnected too. Was at a bar.
really?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, it's the place to be, I
Yeah,
guess.
yes. Different season of life when you're meeting your
Yes.
husband at one, but
Yes, exactly. But yeah, he like Clayton walked by, and I just said, "Ooh, he's cute." And Sadie's mom actually is the one who heard me say that, made it her mission to find out what his name was, and so the rest of the night I was saying, "Where is Clayton Pickens?"
that's
'Cause
amazing.
I thought it was so cute.
And leave it to a mom to be like, I'm old enough to do this. I'm like, that's something
Oh,
my mom
yeah.
would be like,
Oh yeah.
it's not weird. I'm a mom.
Yes, and Sadie says it's still one of her mom's like claim to
That's
fame
epic.
of like setting up a couple. She's like, yeah, they're married, they have 2 kids.
I would claim
now.
that too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so good.
So yeah, that was kind of like, that's why. So we got married, moved to Dallas for 5 years, and now we just moved back, almost a year ago, I guess. So
Yeah.
we're here, and now we have a ministry called The One He Loves, which is really just a place for women to come and encounter Jesus, and that's outside of a church setting. And so right before a lot of things happened in our life, we started this ministry really just with the burning in our heart to do something with what was burning within us, and we wanted to set the table for people to just come and encounter His love. And we had no idea that we were like actually starting something when we did it. It's become much more than I think I ever like dreamed it would be. We had our first one in a coffee shop, and it was just so cool to see what God did in that room. And I remember when we were done, I was like, that's not just a one-time thing. Like, we have to do that again. And it just gave space, honestly, for the things that had already been burning in my heart to just have more of a place. Because I had done dance, I had been writing music and putting music out, but it was just kind of like, okay, there's still something that I feel like we're supposed to put more legs to this, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, we were just laughing before this, especially when you mix motherhood in with all the things. Laney has so many plates spinning in life, and I can relate to you in that. But she has the most beautiful voice ever. Like you said, the singing part so nonchalantly, but I love your voice. It is so beautiful.
Thank you. That would actually make me cry.
Really?
Yes. My voice for me is like the greatest area of spiritual warfare I've ever experienced. Anytime I sing, it's like,
really?
Yes. And I'm starting to notice that. But just being super real, every time I sing, there is always like some kind of attack afterwards.
Like an insecurity?
It's like, well, yeah, for sure, insecurity, but it's like I know it's the voice of the enemy because of what it does to me, and it like truly brings so much angst and fear, and like I just want to crawl in a hole, like that kind of feeling, which is what the enemy does. Like,
yeah.
Makes you want to hide,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But honestly, the season I'm in right now is I feel like God's been bringing me out of that. I finally recognized that was happening. Like, since 10 years ago when I started just kind of singing more openly, I didn't recognize at first that every time like an attack would come afterwards. And so then I would just stop for a while. This year, I felt like God spoke to my heart that it was a season for singing. And so I've been writing more. I've been singing at our church. I've been like taking the steps to just like, God overcomes it by faith through me. I know that. But at the same time, like I've been actually taking the steps to not live under the defeat of the warfare. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like that has actually made all the difference. So
that's how I feel about this podcast.
Yeah, you're doing it. That's why I looked at you and I said, you're doing it. Because the hardest part is starting.
Yeah.
It's taking that first step, but then, okay, now take another step and take another step. And then it's like, somebody told Clayton before we got married about some stuff he was walking through, that he was going to look back at his struggle and laugh. Like down the road, he was like, you're going to look back and laugh. And at the time, it was hard for him to believe that was really going to be true.
Yeah.
And that's what comes to my heart right now as we're talking. It's like those things that you're trying to walk through. It's hard. And then like 5 years down the road, you'll look back and laugh that you felt in over your head or felt nervous or felt incapable. It's like all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, God, like you carried me this far, you know?
And see, I feel like a lot of times those are the things that God just uses your yes so powerfully that you look back and you're like, I couldn't have imagined that you would use it in these ways. And I'm not even saying, like for me, for example, with this, I'm not even saying that I think I'm going to look back in years and be like, oh my gosh, this reached millions of people. I'm holding it so open-handedly. It's just truly like a step of obedience of something I feel like I'm supposed to do. But like I know that there will be stories that have come from this step of obedience where I'm like, okay, God, you showed up in that way. I saw you in this. I got to know you deeper through this. You know what I mean? Probably in ways that I wouldn't guess or expect that I would feel. And I think it'll be the same for you too.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like I'm already seeing that. Like the more with anything, it's like the more I step out, I look back and I'm like, oh, wow. Like, or if somebody says they listen to a song of mine, like it still blows my mind, but it's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And it doesn't make me go, oh wow, my voice. It makes me go, no, I actually know that's a weak area of mine and God used it somehow, you know?
Well, like I think if I had your voice, that would be a point of pride for me, which is probably why God didn't give me a voice.
Well, that encourages me. Thank you.
It's so beautiful.
It's so sweet.
Okay, there's so many things that I want to talk about. One, this is just, I've said this before, but Davey had this idea, which I think is such a great idea. And I've just loved hearing from people. But what is your favorite miracle story in the Bible?
He might have told me right before we started.
Did he? Gracie, you had time to doodle on it.
I was like, ooh. But the first favorite is hard with anything, I feel like. But the first one that came to my mind was the woman with the issue of blood.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one that for different reasons will come back to my mind in different moments of life. And I think one of those being like her desperation. Like 12 years is a very long time to suffer anything.
Yeah.
And to imagine having an issue of blood for 12 years, I don't feel like I can actually wrap my mind around that.
Yeah.
And then her like hearing about Jesus and her desperation to like press through the crowd, like her belief that if I could just press through these people, if I could just get to him, I know that I'll be made well. And then I love, like, you know, she touches the hem of his garment, and then I think that's like the first time, or maybe the only time, where God addresses a woman as daughter.
Mm.
And he says, daughter, because you dared to believe, your faith has healed you.
Mm.
And something that has spoken to me with that is, like, you know, she had the ability to get to Jesus, like to actually touch him. But when he turns to her, he doesn't say, because you touched me. He calls out her faith in him. And I think that speaks to us right now with where we're at, is like, I can't physically touch Jesus. I can't reach out and touch his garment, but I do have faith in believing in his name, believing truth about who he is, can heal me. And she was healed in that very moment after 12 years of suffering. That's my favorite.
That's a good one. I love what you said about Jesus not being here physically, but that having that same kind of faith. I've never thought about that, and I loved what you said about addressing her as daughter. I mean, I'm assuming it will probably be mostly women that are listening to this. And that's just one of my favorite titles that Jesus calls us, is daughter.
Daughter,
or son.
Yes.
And I have a great relationship with my earthly father, but I feel like I know my heavenly father better because my earthly father is so wonderful.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that's not the case, and it's like, I just love the role of God as a father to us, because it speaks to people who have great earthly fathers and who don't. Yeah. It fills a void for people who don't. And it connects to people who do. So that's really good. Something that I was excited about when I had reached out to you, I've said since the beginning, like, I want this podcast to be stories of crazy miracles that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that still happens, or that happened. Like, that defies all odds. But I also don't just want it to be like a crazy healing podcast, because a lot of people don't get healing and get outcomes and get things that they're praying and asking God for. They don't see miracles in the way that they're asking, but God does miracles in the meantime. Like, I've seen God do miracles in my life in the meantime of asking for a miracle for my dad. Like, I've seen him do miracles through what we're walking through, and I still don't know if we're going to get the miracle of my dad's healing earth side, you know? And so as I've just thought about people in my life who are just marked by God, like, and just have a gift of, and you have a gift of seeing his goodness in things that I think can be really hard to see God's goodness in, but it's because you just live a life that's tethered to God and you walk so closely with God. And so when I was talking to you, it's like, your story is not one of a crazy healing. It's actually an outcome that most people would say, I can't fathom going through that. But then just hearing your perspective on it is miraculous. And like, hearing your heart posture towards it is miraculous. So if you just want to talk about your kids.
So I referenced earlier, we have a baby in heaven. Yeah. I feel like oftentimes when you hear that, you assume that we lost a child at a young age. I say that because we lost a baby at 17 weeks, and I think the reality of the pain that women go through, even at 17 weeks, I have not experienced the other. I'm not here to weigh pain, but it's your child. Yeah. And so just recognizing when you walk through a miscarriage, that, like, you love your baby. Like, the way that I loved Rory, I loved him just like I love Ronnie. Yeah. You know, and we had not had Rosie yet, but, like, there is something I believe that God does in us as moms, and where you love your baby so much. Yeah. Like, there's no weighing it, if that makes sense.
I also think it's validating. Miscarriage happens so much. I think, what's the statistic? Yeah. It's like 1 in 4 women.
1 in 4. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, especially in the world we live in, that, like, often in a lot of scenarios devalues the life of unborn babies. I think it's probably hard for There are probably women who have been through it and are like, how am I feeling this much pain?
Yes.
Because I feel like I love them like I love my 2-year-old.
Yeah.
But then you have a whole world of people saying it's different before they're born into the world. And so I just, listening to you say that, I'm sure there will be people listening who feel validated, who have been through that too, and like can relate to that grief. And it's like, even though you didn't spend time with them as a newborn or a toddler or whatever, like that grief is valid, and
you're connected to your baby.
Yes, it's real.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, walking through, like you said, a miscarriage for me was like something that I would say feared, honestly. Like, I thought, if I ever go through that, I don't know how I'll go through that. I don't know how I'll almost like still have faith.
Yeah.
I was aware that it could happen, but it was just kind of one of those like, oh, that won't happen to me kind of thing. And so just to kind of give like a little bit of story leading up to it, I was at a LO conference actually, and I was on, like, Sadie and I did a podcast from the stage. I was talking about being pregnant, how excited I was, and all of that. Well, internally, I actually was walking down the hallway at LO conference, and somebody said to me, "You don't even look pregnant." And it was so well-meaning, but inside I thought, I'm wondering if everything's all right. And I got home from that weekend, and I just felt like I knew, honestly. And it was one of those, like, you're like, I don't really want to know this, but I feel like I kind of know something is not right. Went to sleep that night, and I actually had a dream that night that I had my little boy, and I like knew I had him. The dream was not of birth, but all I saw in my dream was two hands. If you're watching this, you can see this, but I had it was two hands that I saw, and it was him perfectly just curled up in the sack. I knew, like, it was peaceful. I knew I had him, and yet I woke up and I was like, babe, I had a nightmare last night. I dreamed that I had Rory, and knew, like, that, you know, he was in heaven, honestly. And so I went in to see my midwife, and she was like, let me give you some peace of mind. You know, she's looking for him, and just the worst, like, the worst moment, honestly, I had ever experienced. It just felt like, honestly, I was in shock. I didn't cry. I almost like, I was like, I just don't even know how to respond right now. Like, it wasn't hitting me. I like was like hearing the words she was saying, but it like wasn't totally computing. And then I ended up having to go to the hospital, all the things, having him. But when I had him, I decided not to see him. I just didn't feel like I could handle that. And Clayton told me that he described him to me. And he said, he's curled up and he's still in the sack. And
wow,
it was like just this moment of like, even just saying that, like, I still just get this rush of peace. But I just felt like God was like, I've got him. Wow. And he sent me just an incredible nurse that I still to this day am like, was she an angel? Because she just had the words to say. She held my hand the second I walked in the room. She wrapped her arms around me. And she just said, he never knew any pain. And she was like, he went from one perfect environment to another. He's never known any pain.
Yeah.
And like those words brought me like just tangibly a peace, you know, of like he never experienced anything physically that was painful. But I would say going through that, and this is why when you ask me like, is there a miracle that comes to mind? This is what comes to mind, because when we went through that, I got so many like DMs that said, I'm so sorry. It never gets better. It will always be like this. Every time his birthday comes around, it's going to be so hard. And I mean, so many. And I just remember reading, finally just had to put my phone down. But I just felt in my spirit just like this rising up of no, like, no, that will not be my story. That will not be the story of our family. And walking through that, like, truly changed my life. And obviously, Jesus changed my life, but God used what the enemy might have wanted me to believe was his harm towards me. God has used that to show me a wonder, a beauty, a closeness, a relationship with Jesus that I wouldn't give for anything. Like he became so real to me in that season of pain. Like I felt like right there. Like when you're at, I felt like I could touch him. Like he felt so close. And I feel like now, like in the season I'm in, we have we have our redemption story. We have Rosie, and she's perfect and she's healthy, and we waited a year, and then we didn't wait. We were trying for a year, and finally got pregnant with her. And you could say that that was our redemption, but truly, like, I mean every word that I say when I say that God met me in that season that I would not trade for anything.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting with my mom after, like 2 days after it happened. She had come to just kind of comfort me. And my mom had actually walked through the same thing. Lost a little boy at 18 weeks.
Wow.
So, and I lost a little boy at 17 weeks. My sister has also walked through a similar thing. It's kind of, we've all experienced it now. And I remember telling her, like, just real, just honest, like, how could God let this happen to me?
Yeah.
Why did he do this? And my mom just looked at me with a smile on her face, and she was just like, baby, I don't have all the answers, but what I can tell you is that I do not believe that God gypped me.
Yeah.
And she said, I wouldn't have you if we had had him. I really don't believe I would.
Yeah.
And she said, I actually feel like I got double because he is just as real, meaning we're going to meet him one day.
Yeah.
And
spend actually
eternity forever.
Right. Which I was going to say like 99% of the rest of forever, but it's like, no, there's not. You can't even assign a percentage. Like you're missing a blip with him here, but it's forever with him.
Yes.
He exists.
Yes. And I feel like also just to like, for somebody listening maybe who has walked through this, one of the coolest things going through this with God has been going back and like just asking him to show me, even in the moments leading up, like where he was.
Yeah.
And it's so right. Let's see. A month before I found out I was pregnant with Rory, we got 2 prophecies in the same week. One was a dream that somebody had about Ronnie, it being around Easter, and Ronnie was so excited for a little girl who was a little sister who was coming soon. And in the same week, I also got another one that was about a little boy, and it said, I see you pregnant soon I see you pregnant soon. I don't normally prophesy babies. Hold this one loosely. But it was with a little boy. And I remember thinking, like, okay, one of them's wrong. How? One of them's wrong, How is this going to make sense? And we ended up getting pregnant with Rory the next month. And I actually went back and read that the other day and noticed for the first time that it said, hold this one loosely.
Wow.
Because when I first read it, I was like, I thought she was talking about what she was.
Right.
But again, another way I saw God in it was like going back even now.
Wow.
He like showed me his kindness even in that of like, hold him loosely.
Yeah.
That was not evil. That was like, that was like a father.
Wow.
Just giving like a gentle, trust me and hold him loosely.
Yeah.
And then we ended up, Rosie was due April 24th. So I ended up having her May 9th. But it was like, a year later, or 2 years, I guess, almost, lived the other prophecy of,
wow.
it was around Easter, and Ronnie was so excited for
Yeah.
a little sister. And so there have been little things like that just trickled all throughout, like, his story. And even though, like, I don't have him here every day, it is the strangest thing to honestly say that I still feel like I'm his mom, and I have a life with him.
Yeah.
It's not in the same way that I
Yeah.
enjoy Ronnie and Rosie every day, but the way that he has impacted my life, and the faith, the reality of heaven that God brought through his life before he was even born,
Yeah.
is a miracle in
Yeah.
in our family.
Wow.
It changed us. So
That's so good. And you wrote, I was going to ask you about this, and then
Yeah.
you kind of referenced it, but you were talking about looking back and asking God to show you where he was, and you wrote a song about that
before
that happened.
Yes.
Will you just speak
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, that was another one of those, like, okay, I wrote this song, and people always think it's about him, but it wasn't when I wrote it.
Yeah.
When I sang it later, it was about him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's such a good song.
Thank you.
And, yeah, I think, as you were talking, number one, the song says, show me where you were when all of these things were happening to me. And that's so real. I think even, like I said, you walk so closely with the Lord, and you still had those feelings. And, I've felt a lot of that just in this season of, like, I believe in God's goodness, and I walk with Jesus, but there are still moments that I'm like, how is this happening? But when you were talking, I had, literally as you were talking and just sharing your story, I had this thought of, like, the question that people always ask of, why does God let bad things happen? And, like, you talking about this right now is exactly why God lets bad things happen, because he's giving us a story to tell, to give him so much glory, because there's no like greater opportunity for him to get glory than to go through something unbelievably, indescribably hard like you went through, and to still say, and yet God is still good, and he carried us through this, and he's revealed himself to me in all these ways. Like, that is why God allows bad things to happen, is because he's giving us, that's how he gets glory. And that's, you can't explain the things that you're saying, the peace that you felt,
That's
like,
why
the
I'm, like,
purpose that
saying
you
it
felt.
still doesn't make sense to my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I can't fully explain it from a mental perspective.
Yeah.
I have to explain it from my heart.
Yeah.
Like, in a way that God touched my heart.
Yeah.
And he can touch your heart.
Yes.
You know, in a way that you're like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But this is all I can tell you.
And I love, too, what you said about people sending you messages and saying, this is the path that's coming for you. Because I think about, I should have our director in Uganda for Love One on this podcast, because she went through unimaginable trauma, like such extreme trauma in the war in northern Uganda. And she will tell you, like, the things that she went through is, I can't even, it's her story to tell, so obviously I'm not going to get into detail, but I should ask if she would want to, because when she told me this story, I was like, I cannot believe that you went through that. And she said, you would think that I would be extremely traumatized, but God protected my heart and my mind from the trauma that I went through. And I think a lot, I mean, that's a whole other thing. It's like, when things happen in life, people are telling you, this is your journey from now on. Like, you need to accept it and to say, no, I don't agree with that. I don't receive it. That's not going to be my story. It's like, God is powerful enough that you're not in bondage to traumatic things that you go through. Like, you're not in bondage to your trauma. That doesn't have to be your story.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I feel like there was a generation that never talked about mental health and trauma and all the things that you need to talk about. And then sometimes we've overcorrected to, like,
talk about it so much.
Yes. And I am the biggest advocate of counseling.
Yeah.
I love Tara Tucker.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Our friend Sarah's mom did. I think me and Davey talked about her when we did an episode.
Marriage counseling.
She's a saint.
Yeah,
I am like, amazing. When people say, "What's your biggest piece of marriage advice?" I'm like, premarital counseling
call
with
Tara.
a Christian counselor. Yeah, call Tara Tucker. But not really, because she doesn't take clients. But I'm such an advocate for that. But I feel like a lot of people, it's kind of overcorrected culturally, and then you're just told, like, this is just your trauma, and these are the coping mechanisms that you have, and it's like, but actually, God can just heal you from it.
Yeah.
He can protect you from it. Your path doesn't have to look like the path that's outlined in psychology textbooks, or, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so listening to you say that, it's like, God redeemed that for you, and your story isn't what all these people said it had to be.
I actually had a moment in my car. What you're saying reminded me of this, but a verse that all of us have heard if you've grown up in church your whole life, Jeremiah 29:11.
Yeah.
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And that verse came to my mind in the car one day after going through this, and I thought, how are these the plans that you had for me? Explain this to me again, you know? At the time, I had a little bit more time on my hands, and because I only had one kid, and I was reading, I went back and like read the original Hebrew of like each word. And when I got to the word future, that original root of that word also has a meaning for past. And I just felt like in that moment God was speaking to me that he was the God who not only brings hope to my future, but he is the one who can step into the things that have already been done in the past and bring life out of them.
Yeah.
And I think when we go through death on this earth, it feels like obviously it's final. And it is final in certain ways, but we believe in a God who is a resurrection God, resurrection power. That's what he does. He's the giver of life. And so I just started going, God, this happened. I acknowledge that this is very, very painful. I don't know how you're going to do this. Yeah. But I believe somehow you are going to bring life out of this and redeem it. And he has. It's not in, he didn't bring my baby back. Yeah. But I am grateful for what he has done and how he chose to bring life. Yeah.
It's so good.
But it was one of those where you're like, I really needed that. Yeah. I needed you to speak to me in this way because my head is going round and round about, honestly, scripture. Like, how does this make sense with your word? Yeah. I don't get it. In the way that I think that I had always read it. It's still true, but he just brought a new meaning to it of like, I can actually step into dead things, to things of the past. Yeah. And bring hope and life out of them.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking, I think people will listen to this, and I say this as someone who can relate to this. There's like two sides of this that I think of. One is we're talking about things that happen to us, like that happened to you and to your family. I'm walking through something that's happening to us. We didn't choose it. We didn't do anything to inflict it. But God can still use it in a powerful way. And I also think about things that people have done that are in their past. Like when you're talking about God using your past, there are things that we've chosen for ourselves that are in the past. And I was actually just talking to my brother about this because he has recently had a crazy encounter with Jesus and like really started walking with him. And he is going to be on the podcast to tell his story because it's just really cool. But one thing I told him was, I was like, I think it's easy to look at your past and feel like the enemy knows so many people have done the things that you've done and had to walk the path that you have. And I did too. Like I went to college and I was just not in a good place. And I was just pursuing things that led me to death and depression and like anxiety and feeling empty and insecure and unfulfilled. And I know that's so many people's story, especially when you get to college. I feel like high school and college are a lot of times when people, that's the path that they find and that they pursue. And that's what I pursued. And I told my brother recently, I was like, it would be so easy for you to tell your story and to be like, I found Jesus and I'm new, and not to talk about the old because you feel shame over it and they're bad decisions that you made and decisions that didn't honor God and all these things. I did the same thing, but at the end of the day, too many people are in that same position out there for you not to speak to it, because that's how people realize, oh, he's been where I am and there's hope for me too.
Yes.
And so I just say that as we were talking, I'm like, there's people who are choosing things for yourself that are leading you to all of those negative consequences. But there's hope for you. And then also, if you're in a position where something has happened to you and you're walking through something that's not something that you pursued, but that was God allowed, because everything is either God allowed or God ordained. There's hope and purpose in it. Like, God allows things because the purpose is this. It's literally us sitting here and having conversations like this. This is an example of how God uses it to bring purpose to it and for him to get glory.
So good.
Yeah. And now I'm winded. I can't breathe out of my nose at all. So whenever I finish a long sentence, I'm like,
I'm so impressed that you're doing this. You're doing a great job.
Thanks.
You are.
I'm happy to be here. This is so life-giving. And so many of the things that I've heard people say just sitting in this seat and being the interviewer, if you will, are things that I'm like, man, I wish I had heard that.
Yeah.
In this season of my life when I was going through this, or 10 years ago, or, you know. And especially just with how common miscarriage is and how painful it is. I just know that you sharing everything that you shared will validate and encourage a lot of people to listen.
And I would even say, like, going into this, because I knew we were going to talk about this today, there was a season where it was so, like, it was so on my heart and on my mind all the time. And I don't say this to belittle it in any form, but I say this to say, like, God really has brought me into a new season. Yeah. And it's like, I have to remind myself of the pain. Part of the reason I wanted to get a tattoo of his name on my wrist was because I wanted to remember the pain. Yeah. Because pain's been that thing for me that I always wanted to avoid it, but it brings me closer to him every single time.
Yeah, that's so good.
I remember listening to a message one time, and the pastor was saying, like, you know, we have basically, like, with our pain, there's something that we can experience on earth that we will not be able to experience in heaven. Sorry, did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was like,
I was just thinking,
it's
also
like,
pregnancy
with pain. And he was referring to pain. He's like, there's something with God that you get to experience on earth that you won't get to experience in heaven, because there won't be any pain. Yeah. And it, like, gave me just this new, like, okay, like, maybe I shouldn't avoid this thing as much as, like, nobody wants to go through pain ever. But, like, there is something that God does in our pain that I have personally not experienced him otherwise, like a closeness. And I think, like, Psalm 34 talks about he's near to the brokenhearted. Like, that is so true. Like, he comes near. And I just think about a father. Like, when I watch Ronnie get hurt, what's the first thing he does? He runs to her, and he scoops her up when he hears her cry or her in pain. That's just like that's a good dad. Yeah. You know? Every
time I cry, which is pretty often, in real time, and this is just a gift of, like, knowing scripture and it coming to mind, but I think in real time as my tears are falling, I'm like, he's catching them literally right now. Yes. You know? Yeah. I need to send you this sermon. I've talked about it a lot on here, but I think about the Bema Seat of Christ.
We talked about it at that. Yes. Because every time I tried y'all's stories, where, like, I would try and get it through y'all's story, and then I wouldn't have. It'd be middle of the day, and I'm trying to listen to it with two kids.
And it also, like, doesn't pull up on Spotify. It looks kind of sketchy when you pull up the link. There's also a YouTube video that goes with it, but it's just like a little sound bar that pulls up in your internet browser,
Yes,
and you're
that's
like,
literally,
are
yeah.
they stealing my credit card information while I'm listening to this? They're not, but it's not a typical, it's just like almost like listening to an audio message in your browser. It's super
Yes,
weird,
okay.
but it's a great sermon. But one of the things he talks about is on Judgment Day, like Judgment Day for Christians, which sounds really scary. This completely reframed my perspective on what it looks like on Judgment Day as a Christian. But this one guy lived a pretty comfortable life, like a pretty charmed life, and he is about to enter heaven with all these people who were martyred in crazy times of the world. And there's one guy that comes before Jesus, and he's about to go into heaven, and it's like the time when you get to hear Jesus say, well done and good faithful servant. And he's so envious of the pain that man went through, because he's like, when he got to be up there with Jesus, he and Jesus were homies. And the guy was like, he didn't say this, but he didn't say him and Jesus were homies. This is like in the 1990s or something is when this sermon is. But he says he's just jealous, and he's like, I am a believer in God and I made it to heaven, but he's like reunited with a close friend because of the pain he went through with him. And that spoke to me so much. I've thought about that so much because I feel like I lived a pretty charmed life until my dad's diagnosis. It has been life-changing, like what I've experienced, the ways that I've experienced Jesus that I never had before. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And when you were talking about having that tattoo, I feel like I'm in such a unique position because I want to be on the other side of the pain, but I also don't, because it's like, what are the options? Healing is an option.
Yes.
But there's also an option of him not being here, and I don't want that. And so, it's awesome to hear people who are on the other side, because if you would never be on the front end of what you went through and say, I want to go through that to experience Jesus, but on the back end to hear you say it just encourages me, even though I'm like, I'm not ready to be on the back end, you know.
And you don't have to be, and you don't need to be.
Yeah.
You don't need to
just
be
want to be present.
But
that really encourages me. So thank you.
And yet, like, honestly, when I talk to you guys, I can't fathom what you're walking through, or like even just how to. I actually told Annabelle, I've gone to text you probably 10 different times, and it's like there are no words. Yeah, it's like there's not, but like we're talking about, again, my words fail in comparison to what you're walking through, but he comes close. And his touch, his nearness, just him, more than anyone else can. I know you're experiencing that right now, and I think your family is experiencing that.
Two things I'll say. One is, you're also a friend that even if you never texted me and said I'm praying, if I know that if you knew that I was walking through that, you would be praying. And I was also just gonna say, between my sniffles, I love, so Laney and Annabelle got coffee, and afterwards I just loved what Annabelle said, because I called her and I was like, how was it? And of course I was laughing about you saying I've gone to text you 10 times, because our text messages are just so sporadic and like a week between each one. And we were talking the other day, and I was like, I can't have friends that don't have grace for this cadence of communication.
If you're good at texting, don't text me.
Don't expect me to be your friend
that
you're constantly talking to. But when where was I going with that?
Annabelle,
yes.
how was it?
Woo.
Our text threads.
I probably need to blow my nose. Well, one thing Annabelle said, I had asked her how it went, and she was like, it was so great. I know what I was going to say. I was laughing because you and Annabelle got coffee, and when I went to text you, you had invited me to come with you, and I missed it. That's where I was going with that.
That's so funny.
But when afterwards, I had called Annabelle just to ask how it went, and she was like, I mean, if I had to, like, describe her, I would say that she is peace as a person.
Aww.
I was like, yeah, that is literally the best way I've ever heard you described.
So
just so peaceful.
So sweet.
And I feel like that's why you're such a fast friend for me. Just so easy.
I feel that way about you. I actually thought coming into this, I was like, Grace is going to be the most, like, you're just steady. Do people say, your mom probably says that about you. Yeah, you're very steady. You're like a rock for people.
Well, I think...
And you're a rock for your family, I think, and...
Well, thank you for saying that. I think when you have so many kids in your family, I think I just naturally became, like, pretty neutral, you know?
Yeah.
Not in a negative way. I mean that, like, not like I was forced to stuff down any part of me. I think I just, it made me very go with the flow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're just very real, too, which is...
Well, thank you.
Strange that that's rare, but when I hear you talk about something, I know it's going to be good, and I know it's going to be true.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. I feel the same about you. Well, this has been so life-giving and fun, and I think we're probably at time. I need to get a clock.
This has been awesome.
But I know a lot of people will be encouraged from listening to this, and I just appreciate you taking the time to be on here and be vulnerable, and it's such a choice. This is what I was telling my brother, like, you have a choice when everybody's going to walk through things. Every single person's story is probably going to be marked by both making decisions that you're not proud of and that you could feel shame over, and also things happening to you that you wouldn't wish on yourself. And everyone is faced with the choice of, am I going to step into this, say no to shame, and let God use what I chose or what I went through or I'm going through to glorify Him, or am I just going to keep it to myself? And I'm really proud of the way that you've chosen to share. And I just think that's what it's all about. Like, that's what it's about, being a believer. And that's what makes people want to know Jesus and have what you have. Like, I mean, even when I'm around you, I want more of what you have. I learned so much from your relationship with Jesus that I'm like, oh, I need to press into that in my own relationship with Him, you know? So
I feel that way about you. Like, ditto.
That's the best kind of
I feel
friendship.
the same way.
And that's how your friend should be.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
It's like, I want more of whatever you got, let it rub off on me.
Same. I was, on a side note, also just, like, having good friends. We were laughing on the way here because I texted Laney and I was like, I only do my makeup in the car these days, so I just assumed my makeup bag would be in the car. I got in the car, was not in the car. My face is breaking out from pregnancy.
I cannot tell.
Well,
you said it was so bad. I'm like,
it
I do not see a single pimple.
Okay, let me explain
Not
why.
one.
It's because I dropped my boys off at my parents' house before this, because they were watching him. But my mom had just left because she and my dad are getting away for a night, which is so awesome, and they need. But she left, and she took her makeup bag. Annabelle is in Birmingham and had her makeup bag. Obviously, Josie Love and I do not have the same skin tone. So I'm, like, sifting through everyone's drawers to find anything. And I told Laney, I voice memos her before, and I was like, do you happen to have, like, an eyebrow brush or a little spoolie that I could use for my eyebrows? And I was like, I found a brush in the floorboard of my car. And I was like, there's probably some bronzer still in here. And then I found, the best part was, the reason you can't see why me breaking out is because I found my mom's an old thing of my mom's concealer, or maybe it's not even old, but it's broken. It was literally, the sponge came off, so it was just a plastic stick that I was, like, dotting all over my face.
Luckily, you don't need a lot of makeup, so you're good.
Well, thank you, but yeah.
You're beautiful.
I love your friendship. I love having friends that, when we talk, it's like, oh, it's fine that it's been 2 weeks since I texted you. No hard feelings. You can count on
that is friendship as a mom.
In 2 weeks,
like,
yes.
You just can't. Like, there's not. It takes me. I literally thought it had been 2 days since you voice memoed me. I go to voice memo you back, and I'm like, it's been 9 days. In my mind, it was 2.
But if you said to me, when did you voice memo me? I would have said a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's real. Yeah. But I just love your friendship.
I love you too.
This has been so fun.
Sweet.
Thank you for coming on.
I'm so proud of you. I'm excited. This podcast, I already know, is just going to be incredible.
Thank you.